Of the religious classes offered at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic High School, Introduction to Faith was one of the more bizarre. But some of them I understood. At least the titles like Christology or Church History, they represented concrete fields of study, but reverence for life and family? How the hell do you teach something like that? And apparently our teachers didn't have much of an idea either, because one of our first assignments in that class was to draw a physical representation of our relationship with God. That is the appropriate response. So, most of my fellow students, they created images that drew on the iconography so prevalent among Christians in recent decades. That of a father embracing a child, or of being carried across a beach, leaving a single set of footprints. Mine was a toxic cloud, poisoning and suffocating everyone it came into contact with. See, I spent most of my teen years as a godless communist. And one of the lessons that I had learned from a Catholic upbringing was that religion was a tool that could be used to not only rationalize, but spiritualize any kind of evil or abusive behavior. In seeking a language of secular compassion, I discovered Karl Marx, whose philosophies I quoted liberally in every sense of that word. This lasted until I actually bothered to make a study of economics. There we go. Through literature, through history, most particularly travel to China, where one must explicitly reject God for membership in the country's single political party, and where I discovered the terrifying truth that in a state without God, the state seeks to become God. Of course, by that point, I'd already left both atheism and redistributionism behind. I didn't enter the country with a copy of the Communist Manifesto on my person, but the Bill of Rights. And around my neck, I wore the 8 auspicious symbols of Tibetan Buddhism. Both were items that provoked raised eyebrows from customs officials in China. When I returned, I immediately did 2 things. I officially joined the Libertarian Party, and I began attending Mass again on a weekly basis. Yeah, that usually gets a mixed response. No one supports both of those decisions. I remember attending Mass with both my parents, how my Catholic father would stand to receive communion while my Anglican mother would awkwardly push her legs to the side to allow the others to pass. And in the Code of Canon Law, it states clearly, a person who is conscious of grave sin is not to celebrate Mass or receive the body of the Lord without previous sacramental confession. Yeah, think about it. You've hit the central problem. No, I have not attended Mass in well over a decade. Confession. I have attended Mass. I have not attended confession in well over a decade, and this is less due to dogmatic conflict than it is due to moral cowardice. And deeper than this, maybe I don't want to be forgiven. I want to be punished, which may just be about the most selfish, egotistical thought I've ever had. If you insist. I'm sick with self-love. Or self-loathing. After all, they are both essentially the same thing. Of course, it's not like anyone would stop me from taking the body and blood. I belong to one of those churches large enough that nobody really knows each other. But since I don't believe in the doctrine of transubstantiation, the only thing that makes that ritual sacred is that I choose to treat it as such. So if I rejected the rules and embraced the ritual anyway, then yeah, I would be profaning the sacrament and thereby rendering the whole exercise meaningless. So every week, as I watch the others stand to receive communion while I awkwardly push my legs to the side, I feel such a profound sense of isolation. Because I have managed to write scripts that are so perfect that they never have to exist in reality. To join a political party that will never wield political power, and to practice a faith that doesn't acknowledge me as a part of it. Because I require this absolute unbending moral purity from every aspect of my ideology, and that is just exhausting. So if my father imbued me with ambition, competitiveness, and a Chinese work ethic, then my mother gave me the gift of doubt. A hard-nosed Aussie skepticism and intolerance for damn foolishness. You know, I remember watching the news with both my parents, and how my mother would often comment casually and irritably on everything that she saw. You know, I remember one story about a man who refused to fetch his gun when the police asked him for it. And when the interviewer asked him why, my mother blurted out with dismissive contempt, "Well, of course not, they'd have shot him." And she turned out to be right. That is exactly what the police were trying to do. I remember her constant skepticism of anyone in a position of authority. But more than that, I remember how her instincts about people and power almost invariably turned out to be right. So one of the things that I miss most about my days as a godless communist is the moral certainty. You know, because when I was the center of my own ethical universe, everything was infinitely simpler. But since I committed to walking down that dark, terrible path of faith again, it has meant embracing doubt. Applying rigorous critical thought to every aspect of my life, never settling into complacency. But I am a better thing now than I was then. There is nothing worse than certainty. Doubt makes us weak. And that is why it is so important, because I have wasted too much of my life trying to be powerful.
Baby, do you understand?